station where you boarded the train is the old Freneau station. This would have been the first stop out of Matawan, headed towards Freehold on the old C&J branch. The building with the large glass windows is the Union Newsstand. That was on the platform at Manasquan. That's where commuters would have gotten their newspapers, magazines, candy, tobacco, whatever in the morning. And then the building down at the end with the ticket sign on the top of it. That was the old Allenwood station. That was just a few hundred yards down the track, not in front of the clock here. Built during World War II, was built mostly with scrap and reclaimed lumber. Now we come out of the woods here between two fields. The field on the left is for overflow parking. Whenever the park has a major event, they use that field for overflow parking. The lines of tall grass are the lane markers for parking. The field on the right, just the other side of that strip of trees, is where they have a lot of the special events. There'll be a flea market there next Saturday. They have one every month out there. They had a 5K run a few weeks ago. And in the past, they've had 1,800 space rail games out there. They've had several roaring campings out there and any number of other special events in the field. So both of these grade crossings are still active. We do have to keep blowing the horn for those grade crossings. Farmingdale, Freehold, Jamesburg, and on out to Mollis Junction. Now, one time that was a fairly popular route for people coming from the western part of the state, headed to the North Jersey Coast Resorts, as well as very far coast from Grove and Long Branch. The last scheduled train on that line was a one-car doodlebug, which would start in Red Bank every morning, come down to Seagirt, go on out to Mollis Junction, and then down to Trenton in the morning. And in the afternoon, it would run that route in reverse. And it was primarily used by parochial school students headed to parochial high schools in the Trenton area. When that train was discontinued, it was very shortly after that the railroad applied for and acquired permission to tear up the track from Seagirt to Farmingdale since there was no freight traffic on that section. In 1939, when the King of England visited Washington, D.C., and then went to Hyde Park with the president for the barbecue, they came up the Pennsylvania Railroad to Mollis Junction, and then came across through here down to Seagirt, and then up the coastline up to Red Bank, where you probably have seen some of the photos of the big brown wave of Rita King in Red Bank, and on up to Highlands, and then boarded a naval vessel up to Roosevelt Estates. Ride your bicycle from the park here all the way down to Seagirt on that line. About a 6.5 mile ride. Now as you come around the bend and into the woods, if you look over to the left of the train, you'll see a siding. That's our work train siding. That's where we load stone, ties, and rail on a blue track work. Down at the end of the track, you'll see the other Navy flat car frame. You'll also see the large red building, which is our main car barn. That's where we stored most of our equipment. With 5 tracks under cover, each of them about 160 feet long. But even with that, we don't have enough covered storage for everything. We still have to leave the PP. This is the way we got it. We converted that into what you're riding in right now. Just ahead of the car barn, the first car you see is a twin motor wheel tank car. That was built in 1926 standard gauge. used for flying a gasoline. In the late 60s, it was sold down to the railroad down to Bayhead and used to refuel diesel engines in Bayhead. One of three that were down there. Next in line is a green passenger car with a baggage door. That car is the black locomotive over by the vents. And the white passenger car are all movie stars. They appeared in the movie The Molly McBriars with Sean Connery and Richard Harris back in 1970. At that time, they were owned by Carroll Park and Western. And finally, there's the black East Deltop Hopper car. East Deltop is a narrow When the railroad shut down in 55, it was sold for scrap. But instead of scrapping it, the Kowalczyk family opened it up in 1960 as a tourist line. It ran on a 5-mile segment of the track up until 2011, when they finally shut down. Last year, a bunch of former railroad officials and investors bought the property, and they're in the